Good morning, everyone. Kevin the Toy Smuggler here, and today we're going to be talking about sculpting with Super Sculpey. That's how I started out my career in sculpting, is with a basic armature and your Sculpey clay here. There's lots of different versions of this stuff. These are all oven baked clays, which there lies part of your problem a lot of the times. And like I said, yeah, they come in several different colors now. You can get a white color. See, this is the gray. This is the what they call it. Get it up here better here. This is the firm, Super Sculpey firm, and the reason, and usually on the firm, you will always catch it in this. See if I can get it open up here. Be like a charcoal gray kind of color here, very dark gray here, and it, true to its name, it's very firm. It has a very dry feel to it. That's one of the reasons I don't like it. But what we typically do, there's another kind, and I don't have any on me. I've done used all of it. Is there's a kind that's got a flesh tone, and the flesh tone is has a very you can definitely feel the oils inside of it. And what we tend to do is take half and half. These come in layers. Pull on these. Here's a half a layer. Let's see if I can pull it out of here. Yeah, see. Yeah, they're like 9 or 10 these little circles here. And these are used for measurement. That way, if you want to mix a certain amount of it, half and half, with the flesh kind, you can use a whole roll. You can cut a little strip of these off. It just helps you measure it. And like I said, if you go half and half, but it takes a little bit. You got to really work it to really get it all mixed up, and you kind of get a little bit of the best of both worlds. You get the smoothness and a little bit more oily feel from the flesh tone, but yet when you go to bake it, it does get extra hard. But I still overall have issues out of it. It don't have a great shelf life. If you sculpt out of this stuff, make sure you keep your original statue somewhere where it's always going to be temperature controlled, because the worst thing you do on these original sculpts is take them to shows, in which we make these things to take them to shows instead of showing to people. So that's the kind of the aggravating part of this is traveling with these statues and stuff. And what you tend to run into is you're constantly just fixing them, repainting them, little things break on them. And I'm going to show you one. And what we do is all these you have to do them with a metal armature. I'll show you what I got here. This is what I made out of your basic coat hanger wire, and I had some scrap copper wire that came out of an old house, no, an old industrial building, something like that. Somebody had some scrap of it, and but the core stick part, like you just like drawing a stick figure. The core stick part is just plain old coat hanger wire. Is some of the best wire, the old metal brass looking ones. That's the best wire for sculpting armatures I've ever found. I mean, they're strong. If you're doing a bigger piece, they really hold the weight, because once you start getting around the 12-inch scale figures, you're getting a lot of weight on there, especially if you're using this kind of clay versus your monster clay. This is much more dense and has a lot more weight. So if you're going with a piece and they're really leaned forward, like in a running pose or getting ready to fly pose, you get a lot of weight and it's hard to hold up. And a lot of people want to, your first knee-jerk approach is you want to go use aluminum wire, which is easier to work with until you get the stuff in the oven. And so what you're going to remember, if you're working on a heavy piece, you're working in it in your natural air setting, which is going to be about 70-ish degrees. And so when you put it in that oven and you're cooking it at about 250 degrees or 200 degrees, well, that aluminum wire is going to get extremely soft. It's going to start weak. The warmer the oven get, the weaker that aluminum is going to get, and your piece still stays the same weight, and you'll have a droop effect. Now, I learned that the hard way. I done this big, huge Conan piece with almost a 2-foot long snake wrapped around him, and that snake was free floating in the air. And I remember it was probably cooking 20 minutes, and And I remember walking by the oven, and I heard a thump. I was like, oh my gosh. I knew what happened. And I opened up the oven door, and man, that was, so I just left it in there. I let it finish cooking, and I ended up just gluing it all back together. But it was, didn't turn out pretty. So stay away from aluminum. You can use aluminum wire on maybe a size of a figure. This is a 6-inch scale. You're probably fine with that. But when you're doing the bigger ones, I would stay away from, unless it's a very vertical posed figure. So kind of show you what I did here. Get a shot of coffee here, guys. Oh, that's amazing. Is back when I first started sculpting and doing comic book work, I was putting on my artwork at a store downtown Dalton called the Fantasy Factory, owned by AJ Coker. Amazing guy. He ended up when I started doing my comic books called Paranormal Chasers, he was the first store to let me put my comic books up for sale. And then years later, AJ Coker ended up playing himself in the Paranormal Chasers movie series, because I ended up putting him and some friends from the store into the comic book series. And it was probably one of the most funnest things that I ever got to do. Is if you ever design a comic, somehow find an excuse to throw your friends in there. It just makes it that much more personal, and they love it too. And it's just good all the way around. Well, anyway, a guy by the name of Big Daddy Alex, we used to wrestle together down here in this area, and he is a big gamer, and he showed me this little 1-inch miniature, those die cast pieces of a dwarf astronaut, I think from Warcraft, if I'm not mistaken. And he said, here's a challenge for you. Let's see if you can take this 1-inch miniature and blow it up and really put some crazy detail to it. So show you guys this right here. And I have to say, even though I don't know anything about Warcraft or this type of character, but I have to say I love sci-fi astronauts anyway, and dwarfs just remind me of Lord of the Rings. So this was just a crazy piece that I just couldn't help but to have just tons of fun with it. And the biggest thing he said, I really want you to take the miniature and what it did, and he said, then just trick it out and really slap the detail to it. So this was really like one of the, I think this was like my eighth or 10th, somewhere around there, statue that I ever did to full completion. So, and this whole backpack piece that you see here is magnetic. So let's see if we get you all a little bit better. I'll take it off here and show you guys it by itself. So, and learn to use magnets. So great to use magnets. Let's see, I think this, yeah, okay, yeah, this actually will come out if I really want it to. Big hammer. And the cool thing is this space helmet was actually, I went to Hobby Lobby, and where you see this dome part here, that's actually one of them wooden balls that's got one end of it kind of shaved off flat. So I just, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, I feel the screw hole down here. So I ended up just gluing and screwing it on right there and just sculpted around the wooden ball. It just made so much sense to do it that way. So see if here I can get this magnet thing off, kind of show you guys a better look of that. Let's see. There we go. And these are, if I'm not mistaken, it's old computer magnets. And, you know, old computer magnets are extremely strong. And this piece here, this plate that I use, the magnet is on the figure. And so what I found was, this is the flat part off a kitchen cabinet. You know, you have the little ball handle, and this was the plate that it screws in to go to the cabinet. This is for decorative, and it's a nice piece of metal, in which does really great for that magnet to work on. I don't know what this little guy is supposed to be, but that's roughly what he looked at. I mean, he was tiny too, looking at him off of, he was probably not even a 1/4 inch tall and carrying a little, looks like a mask. type thing. And these pieces are metal too. Jordan, good morning, brother. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is one of my earlier pieces. A lot of fun. It was a really good challenge. And like I said, these are just metal fittings that you can pick up like at Lowe's or Home Depot. I think these are for like your copper water lines and stuff. And that's one good thing when you're getting into sculpting. Be very creative on finding different kind of metal connections and stuff like that. That really helps. And I can't remember. This is some kind of piece of hardware too. You see it here. And if I turn it around, and I got them again right here. It's called, this process is called found objects is what it's called. It's where you use different, if you watch Toy Polloi, he calls them bits and bobs. You just go, I keep bins and bins. I got these little shoebox plastic totes full of just scrap junk that I find that I thought, this has an interesting look to it, interesting shape, a lot of weird details, and I'll just throw it. I got some for plastic, like plastic bottle lids. I got all like for orange juice and stuff like that. I got so many. Good morning, Keith. Yes, steampunk. I love steampunk before it was ever named steampunk. And what introduced me to steampunk back in the day, you guys will probably remember this, is Will Smith Wild Wild West. Now, if you want your first early introduction to steampunk, that's the movie you need to go back and rewatch again. You'll be like, you probably forgot about the movie because it wasn't a great blockbuster. It was just one of them fun summer movies that was just a lot of fun to watch. And it was your early days of steampunk before the word steampunk was ever coined. And what I did, guys, was just took these different metal pieces, crazy glued them all together. And then I came back in with the clay and put some clay down. And like this is a metal piece off of an airline. And just got creative. And I'm always on the hunt. My eyeballs is on the hunt. Anytime I walk by an old shop, the first place I go to is the metal drum. It's the scrap bin that they're throwing junk away. And I love digging in for the scrap bin. So much fun to look in that because you just find all sorts of neat little things. And it may be years before I ever use it, but somewhere down the line, I will use it. Yes, TikTok. Yes, very, like I said, that's just neat. Just putting all sorts of little junk together. And I love anything sci-fi, astronaut, sci-fi, robots, anything like that. And then with this adding this whole medium of steampunk to it, really, you can go pretty crazy. It really lets your mind turning and everything where you can really go out and look into some different kind of details and stuff. I'm trying to get this hammer off here, kind of show this. And guys, all this is a metal rod that had a thread connection, and I just put some bolts on it. It had a small set of threads on this end. No, I think this is a bolt with the threads on this end, and I just added different details to it. And then I got up to the hammer part, and I got the clay. Let's see here. Sorry about that, guys. And just added the clay elements to it to get it the actual shape that I wanted. But I did this because I did not want this to be made out of any kind of clay or to put so much clay on it where sculpting it would have just been aggravating. And then at the same time, I wanted it durable. That's one thing you will learn really quick on your first handful of statues that you work on is working with clay. And to show you guys come in just a little bit later, here's what most of these statues look like on the inside. It's just coat hanger wire with some kind of armature. Like this is scrap copper. Any kind of softer wire that's really pliable, you wrap around. And what this is used for, I'll kind of show you a small demonstration. I never mess with this one just because I can keep it for demonstration purposes. And what you do is you take your clay here. You got to knead this junk up. Oh, that's the aggravating thing about this gray clay. It's very dry. Well, you keep working it and it soften up, and you push it in here, and it gets inside these grooves inside these little spaces of the wire, and that helps hold the clay onto the piece, onto your armature, and that's what gives it strength. But unfortunately, like I told you guys, sculpting with Sculpey, you better keep your statue, put it on a shelf, don't ever touch it, keep it in a room where the temperature stays the same, because unfortunately, like when I went to shows early on in my career, you take these, you're putting them in a box, you're trying to fill them up with peanuts, you're traveling around and you got them in your vehicle. Well, you're getting them out. The shows are either late in the winter or late in the summer, and so it's extremely hot or extremely cold. So what you're running into when the temperature changes, this stuff will emit a small amount of gas on the inside of it, and it's that gas and temperature flux builds up pressure on the inside, which causes them to swell up and shrink, swell up and shrink, and that's what causes it to bust. Almost like the same principle of water clay. You cannot put no kind of armature inside of water clay, because water clay, when it's curing, it shrinks, and if you put one toothpick inside of it, boom, it'll bust somewhere down the line. It'll just split right down the middle. So see what we got going on. So that's that. And like I said, just kind of do a quick refresh. Like I said, you got the Sculpey Firm, which is your gray. And like I said, if I do use this stuff, I'm usually mixing it with the Flesh or Super Sculpey number. Let's see here. Yeah, this is the Super Sculpey number 3. And like I said, I'm just not a fan anymore. Usually, if I do Sculpey, it's for very small pieces, or I'm just sculpt. I love the Flesh kind if I'm just going to sculpt hands, or just to sculpt the face, because it's got a really nice texture to it. And another worst part of all this stuff is getting it in the oven and baking it. And I couldn't tell you how many times I've sculpted a piece, put it in the oven, and you even going by the directions, you're going to cook it for a good half hour. You come back 20 minutes in, and the stuff is completely on fire. So anymore, when I sculpt a head or sculpt a set of hands, I don't even worry about curing it and making it hard. Usually I just take that from that point, glue it to a board, and go ahead and go straight to the silicone molding stage, mold it, and then pour my master copy out of resin. And that way, that's my new master. And then the original Sculpey piece, I just usually use it for something else. I'll usually set a head. I usually paint some Vaseline on it, throw it in a sandwich bag, and put it in a box. And boom. And that's the greatest thing, guys. If this stuff, you ever pull it out of the package, either the Firm or this kind of stuff, if it feels a touch dry, and even after you work it for a little bit and you can't seem to get it to smooth up, get about 2 fingers, dip it in some Vaseline, rub it in your hands, then take this clay and start playing with it some more. It's called clay, but it's not clay. Okay, this is all petroleum-based stuff. And what is petroleum jelly made out of? Duh, petroleum. So just an extra touch of petroleum rubbed back into it and worked back into it really brings it back to life. So that's a good little helpful hint. I didn't know that. Then later on, a guy told me the trick, and I was like, sorry guys, I was sitting there looking at this coffee, steam coming off up, and I just couldn't resist. Apologize. So guys, what I'm going to try to do between now and this weekend, I had somebody come on here and ask the molding process. I'm going to try to get something together where I can show you guys how to do silicone molding and everything. I don't know how crazy I'm going to go with it, because silicone molding and casting is a mess. It is a hot mess. And I don't do it as much as what I used to, just for the simple fact of I've learned over the years, I make more money by designing something and then passing it off to somebody else and let them work on making all the reproductions and stuff. That way, while they're reproducing and making the copies, I'm working on something new. Because by the time I get the original piece done, Time I get to the molding stage, my brain's done shot because I done spend 50 hours or more on it, and I'm ready for my brain to be refreshed and go on to something new. That's just from getting old, getting my ADHD probably getting a little worse on me and stuff like that. So, so that's my deal. And like I said, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I get in the mood and I want to mold stuff. I get excited about it. I'll design a my own custom He-Man accessories and stuff like that. And it's got to be a fun piece for me to get into the molding inside and everything. Or it's either that or a preservation type thing where I'm just taking something like an old part of He-Man. Remember the satellite dish that goes on top of them? What is it? The Point Dread, the Falcon looking ship that has a blue antenna thing on top of it. Well, those hard to find, not chewed up, broken or whatever. Well, I fixed one, kind of redesigned it, and I'm making a mold for it so I can make copies of that one. So little things like if there's a specific reason, but as far as just making my own copies of this stuff, I just don't care to do it anymore. So, but I am going to show you guys that process. And once again, I said I didn't bring the book in here, but Google book called Pop Sculpture. I'm here to tell you guys that is the best book. If you are serious about getting in this, let that be your first purchase before you buy anything else. You'll spend about $30, $35. Just go to your local bookstore, or you can Google it on Amazon, eBay. You can find this book. Yeah, you may even come across it cheaper on Amazon or something, but be prepared to spend about $30, $35. But I'm here to tell you guys it is worth every penny, because when the unfortunate part of my sculpting story is the first 5 or 6 years I spent sculpting, I didn't know anybody at Sculpt. I wasn't around anybody at Sculpt. So, and there wasn't many YouTube videos up at that time. So honestly, I was just like teaching myself. And the bad thing about that is you just run into a lot of trial and error. Do it wrong 4 times, and the 5 or 6 times you do it, you finally learn something and get it right. This book will take that 5 or 6 mistakes to get it right to making only 1 mistake, or if you make any mistakes at all. It really skips a lot of that learning curve. It's direct to the point. It's an easy read, fun book. You'll find it extremely interesting. If you love toys and toy designing, that's the book to get. And they talk you through how to do the statues like this. And like I said before, start with static statues. Keep it simple and stuff like that. Don't worry about trying to design action figures, because that's a whole nother ball game. That's all these little crazy pieces. Whew. And then it's a headache. It can be an extreme headache. Take your time and do a good dozen or 20 pieces like this, and constantly during that time study how these are designed and made. That's my recommendation. That way, by the time you get to one of these, you'll enjoy the process more versus being just completely and totally aggravated. So that's my helpful tips on this, guys. I'm going to get ready to go to work and stuff. But Keith, Jordell, thank you guys for joining me this morning. Pass it along. Tell everybody the Toy Smuggler says hey. And guys, any other kind of videos that you would like me to do, just leave a comment here. I'll be glad to get to it. I'm making a list, trying to make sure I'm giving the content that you guys really want. Try to be helpful, try to be entertaining. And guys, it's all about being a part of the toy community and just having fun and sharing with each other. So guys, love you guys. You guys be safe out there. Have a great day, and just keep your eyes open for something cool. Always be on the hunt for cool action figures. I'm the Toy Smuggler. You guys have a great day.